Okay, anyone who's ever worked with children knows that they don't exactly proceed at the same pace. Some kids start to do things a little earlier, some kids start to do things a little later, and it can be inconsistent. Sometimes they'll pick up language faster, but then not be as good at balance. Other kids will be good at balance, but a little later in the learning to read. So there's lots of theories to help people understand if a kid is progressing okay or whether we need to have some concerns and get them some extra help. So we call those the theories of child development. They pretty much look at kids and they check them in a couple different areas. One is their physical development. They know how big a 16-month-old is, how much it normally weighs, how much is too much, how much is not enough. Cognitive development is how their brain is developing. So like by the age of 3, a kid should be able to, do this or recognize that. Number 3 is language development. Some kids start to speak early, but other ones are really delayed. Can be like 4 years old and not really speaking. And then number 4 is social emotional development. That's like their ability to interact with the other kids. Some kids that comes very naturally too, but other kids, they really struggle to do that. Okay, this might be blurry, but basically it says that there are windows of opportunity with kids. So basically, like for their motor development, that starts even before they're born, all the way up till they're 5. And that's kind of happening that whole time. And any time during there, you can help a kid get better at physical things. But some things are really important to do at certain times. So like vocabulary, they really learn a lot from the time they're like 1 and 2. And if you start to help them learn vocabulary, then they'll learn well for the rest of their life. But if you don't start, then they'll struggle even later when you try to help them. Second language is another one. Like if you're going to learn Spanish or French, the earlier you start, like almost right at birth, speaking to them in both languages, the better they'll do. Once they get to about 6 or 7, it becomes much harder to learn a language. That's why most American kids take 2 years of a language and then can't remember anything because they didn't learn it when they were young enough. So that's a window of opportunity. It's like a zone of time where you can learn easily. Musical instruments are that way too. That's why you see those little Chinese kids that can play Beethoven by the age of 5, because when you're 3, you can really learn quickly on certain skills like that. So there's been some important people over the years. If I called Uncle Chris right now, he might remember some of the names. I put it this way, if I asked him to name important child development people, I don't even know if he'd remember anybody. But if I said a name, I'm sure he'd be like, oh yeah, I remember we learned about that in school. So you're not really supposed to remember all of the very detailed of this, but the idea is some people have come up with new ideas at some point over the years. So there was this guy, Erik Erikson, and he was a psychologist, and he started to talk about how important it was that kids develop with their ego. And your ego is like the person inside you. So at the beginning, it's very selfish and wants to have whatever it wants, control everything. And then as you grow, you learn to cooperate with other people and things. So he's the one that said that's very important for the development of a child, that they stop being so selfish and learn to be a better team person that will help them learn better. Next was this guy named Jean Piaget, Piaget. Jean Piaget was this French guy, and he got more specific. He sat down and said, like, and this, again, it might be blurry, don't worry about it. It's just a rough idea. So he said that sensory motor, that's like, that's the reason we hang that thing over the crib that the kids look up and they touch, the little thing that spins around, like a little carousel. Because sensory motor is your ability to like see things, touch things, experience the world. That should be happening 0 to 2. Then 2 to 7 is what he calls pre-operational. It's like you're not really able to do too much on your own, but you can learn from others. So if like someone is showing you something, you can kind of follow the pattern. But abstract thoughts are still difficult. So if you say to them like, can you picture, abstract thoughts. It's like, can you picture love, or can you think of an example of love? For them, that's really hard to do. When they get to like 7 to 11, the kids become more concrete. They can start to understand time and space, like the difference between now, this afternoon, tomorrow, and next week. That's really hard for little kids. They don't really see the difference of that. They pretty much live in the now. 7 to 11, you start to develop that. Then 11 and older is hopefully you begin to develop all these more higher level skills that some people make kind of look easy and other people make really hard. You can understand theories. People can teach you things without you having to experience it. You don't have to put your hand on the stove anymore. Someone can explain to you why that would be a bad idea, and you just understand it without having to touch it. One of the guys that I liked was this guy, Howard Gardner. He was definitely at Harvard University, did a bunch of studies, and he said that not everybody learns well by sitting in a classroom and having the teacher talk, talk, talk. That's called auditory learning. He said that there's other kinds of learning. One is visual learning. So a lot of the times now when people use a whole bunch of like webs and pictures and diagrams and charts, that's because of how, like, he was a big influence on that. Then the other one is kinesthetic learning. Kinesthetic means with your body. So I definitely have friends who can learn like any trick in snowboarding so fast, but then they did really bad in school. Like they did not do well in high school or elementary school because they just learn better when they're out, when they're doing it. I'm kind of the yeah, and we're all good at some things. We're visual some parts, auditory some, but like my friend Joe, like he's the best mountain biker out of all of us. He's the best kayaker out of all of us, but he did terrible in school. So he's very kinesthetic. If school would have been taught more physical, Joe probably would have got all A's. Anyway, so then this is all probably listed in the book, but like Gardner said, there's all these intelligence. Like, so some people are really good at certain ones of these. So I guess I'll go over them all quickly, but it's not that big a deal. Like Christopher doesn't know what they are. He just knows the idea. So one is like verbal linguistic intelligence. That's kids that start talking early and they probably like to read a lot and they're very verbal. The next one is logical, mathematical. Some kids are much stronger at like doing things like looking at like putting these blocks with these blocks and how many blocks do I have, or taking things away. Some kids' brains, that's very easy. Other kids, it's harder. Spatial visual is like your ability, like that would make you like a good, not a good gymnast, like more like a good artist, definitely artist. Bodily kinesthetic is that physical one. My buddy Joe, he's really body kinesthetic. He can learn anything. He learned to roll his kayak in like 5 minutes, and I had friends who took 5 months. Musical intelligence is like some people just naturally are able to hear certain sounds in a way that other people struggle. Interpersonal is your ability to talk with people. Intrapersonal is like how much you understand yourself. Naturalist is I never heard this one before. Categorize plants, animals, and other objects in nature. I think that's new. I don't think that existed when I was in school. And then existential is like deep questions like what does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to live a valuable life? So anyway, almost everybody is like stronger in some of these areas and weaker in other areas, but Howard Gardner is the one that hopefully made teachers feel bad and say like, the reason that a lot of kids struggle is not because they're stupid, it's because we teach the same way all the time. I always say if every day every teacher had to take their kids outside and teach them like a sport or like some kind of skill in the playground, the kid that looks like the worst student all morning in like math and reading might be the best kid, like walking on top of the monkey bars, like, and then it would, I feel, would like give them more patience and realize everybody's good at some stuff and struggles at other stuff. Okay, another guy, and again, like I know that if I called Chris right now, he would not remember Vygotsky because I forgot it. Like we just, but we do know that somebody said it's important for your brain what your culture and your social factors are. That means like your family and your friend group, it really matters. Like if you hang out with a lot of other little kids, that if you're like 4 and the other kids like to read books too, then you'll do better. Or if they like to interact, you'll interact better. But if you hang out with kids that don't like to do that stuff, then it'll affect you too. So in the past, people didn't realize how important it was. Like that's why people put their kids around, like send them to like preschool, because if not, they would just be at home forever and like they might not learn, unless they're being homeschooled by a really competent person. There's a lot of social things that they wouldn't learn. Okay, so that's Vygotsky. I don't even know his first name. Okay, and then there was this guy, I know his name, Lawrence Kohlberg. Lawrence Kohlberg was into this thing, like, said that you needed to develop, it's very important like this. When you're a baby or a very little kid, right, the only reason you do anything is to avoid punishment. So you don't do it to, like, make your mom happy, and you don't do it to be a nice person. You do it because you don't want to get in trouble or you don't want to miss your meal. Then the next one, and the whole thing is the more developed you are, the higher you go up this pyramid. So like, so first is you don't want to get hit. Second is self-interest. It's like, well, I like it, so I want to do it. The third level is because like someone is praising you, like, oh, it's called good boy. It should be good boy or girl attitude, the way we talk now. But anyway, it's about like, kids will do things just because they like praise. So like when you think about it, like preschoolers a lot of time are like at this level where like if you say, oh, you did such a good job, they work harder. But then later it should be like they develop like a law and order morality like in their brain. That's the kid that like in first grade turns and goes, you're not supposed to do that. They've bought into this world of rules. Then a higher level is like the social contract. The social contract is like we all agree to live our lives a certain way. We all drive in America at least, on the right side of the road. We stop at stop signs. Even if someone, you know how like if they put on something and they say, oh, does this make me look heavy? And you say, oh no, it's part of the social contract. We try not to hurt each other's feelings. And we learn like, don't say that. That would hurt his feelings. It could be anything, like some kid is not a very good baseball player. You shouldn't go over and say, dude, you're like the worst player on the team. Generally, we've agreed. Again, some kids, they take forever to get up here. And then the highest one is like you do things by principle. That means you wouldn't, like I used to work at this restaurant and like if we wanted to, we could go in and take like, they were called certs. They're like lifesavers, basically. It's like that candy. And everyone stole them. Like they would just wait until no one was there and you take them. They were only like a 25, 35 cents, but people would steal it. But like, because of my parents, the way that I was raised, I just couldn't do it. Like I had to put the 35 cents in the drawer. And it's because like I just felt like if I did it, it was wrong, and then it would say I was like not to myself, because no one was going to know, but it would mean that I wasn't like quote unquote a good person. So he said that kids should develop not only like academically, but that's morally, like becoming a more independent good person. I think that's everything for this one. So anyway, let me go back to the beginning. So child development means that kids advance at different levels. Like I can remember at one point, and that's why you take your kid in for like checks with the what they call the doctor who works with babies. I'm blanking. It'll pop into my head. Anyway, God, what is it called? Anyway, like they took Charlie in at one point, and like she was having trouble lifting her own head, and then like the doctor said, well, really, by this age, she should be better at that, so let's send her. And then they gave her like these little exercises to do, and then like pretty quick she got better at it. Well, Chris and them wouldn't have known really, oh, well, really, that should be better than that. So you go and you learn that. So kids develop in all different ways and all different speeds. And then basically this chapter helps you understand all the different people. I mean, I'm sure that makes sense to you that kids don't advance at the same level, but a long time ago, people thought all kids were the same, and they're just not. So it helps you to understand that, and then it helps you to be able to identify, okay, this kid struggles in this area. Maybe I could give them like a little bit more help. And a lot of times that's all they need is just a little extra help. All right, that's chapter 4.